So I think where it's actually relevant to start is like I started my career with the Detroit Pistons as an unpaid intern in 2001, and it was the summer and there was really nothing to do. The Pistons sucked that year, so they didn't make the playoffs in the 2000 season. And so I started to do a lot with the WNBA team because they were playing in the summer. And then that parlayed into like this 7 years with the franchises. So like they hired me straight out of college. Like I was like an unpaid intern for. I typically say in the story that I was an unpaid intern for 2 years because I pretty much wasn't paid. But like at one point I did make $8 an hour like towards the end of it. So it was like so technically I got paid a little bit. But then they hired me out of college because like it was just clear that like it was a fit. And what was interesting about that time is that at the beginning of that time it was all fax machines and copiers, and at the end of that time, in the middle of that time, it was Blackberries and emails. And like I was traveling. I was 19 when I started there, and then I was 25 when I left there. I was almost 26 when I left there. And so when I was like, 21, I got my first BlackBerry. I was like the second person in the organization to get a BlackBerry because I was the Shock PR director at that point, and I was traveling with the team all summer. And so I like went, and the Pistons PR director was the first person to get a BlackBerry, and he had just traveled with the Pistons. And so I was like, I need one, like just for no other reason than like, but then the BlackBerry being sort of the first real communication tool, because I could not only, you could write emails, of course, but you could browse the web a little bit, and then like I would actually write, like my job required a lot of writing, and so it allowed me to like draft things in the email and like email them to myself. So I started to get into like this headspace of like I can become super efficient with these types of tools. The internet was still, I wouldn't say the internet was really big yet, only because like, Pistons.com was an afterthought. Like, and like DetroitShock.com was like less of an afterthought for some reason, but it was like not really, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like it just wasn't, and you were going through different things at that time too professionally. So like 2003, 2004, basically that's when I remember, okay, for me it was sports, and it was sports information, and it was fantasy football, and it was Gmail. Gmail came out around that time, and my friends and I got a Gmail account, and we started emailing each other, and it was like, and I know people had been doing like instant messaging far before that, but my first real like internet culture thing was later. It was like 2003, 2004 with fantasy football and with like Gmail, honestly. And then that got me, and so I was still with the Pistons through 2007, and we were busy as shit. We went to 3 straight we went to 3 straight Eastern Conference Finals, 2 straight NBA Finals. Like, I was working. Our thing was year-round hoops. We didn't get a break ever. Like we had the NBA team was one of the best teams. The WNBA team was like the best team, going from worst to first. So it was like, and it was, what was cool about it is I got to market a product that nobody gave a shit about, the women's team, and I got to market a product that everybody wanted a piece of, which was the men's team. So like it was this dynamic of going from like working with GQ at Ben Wallace's house one day, and then like begging the local radio station to take an interview from an Australian white woman who's 5'6" the next day that like can shoot a 3-pointer. So, and like actually creating stories around the WNBA team was kind of what I was more interested in. It was more of a challenge. It was like, why should you talk to this person? She's more than just a basketball player. Like she does all these other things. Like, it was more human interest stuff, and it was more like sales than anything else. It was like when we won the WNBA championship in 2003. Like we had to tell the story of like we won like 10, like our winning percentage last year was like 0.003, and like this year we're the best team in the league. We won the championship. We have the trophy, so we had to like pound the pavement, taking the trophy around. Like that was the only way we sold tickets. Was like, we're gonna bring the trophy to your school. We're gonna bring a player with the trophy. We're gonna be there all day, go into all the classrooms, sign autographs, blah blah blah, and you're gonna have to buy X amount of tickets to go to the game. Then we had to figure out how the hell to get the people who bought the tickets to come to the game. So it was just like this crazy experience of, and then the next day it was like, okay, everyone calling me to try to get Bill Lambier on cold pizza or whatever. You know, there's all this stuff going on. So like, but during that time, I found a gap in the fantasy football landscape because I became like, you and I have talked about this. So you actually already know this. So like, I started my own website to write about fantasy football, and then that parlayed into so that was 2006 that I did that, and then by 2008 I had moved to Tennessee, gotten a new job at Columbia State Community College as the director of marketing, became responsible for all of their internal marketing and everything, similar to what I was doing with the Pistons. Like, I wasn't VP level with the Pistons when I left, but I was like just under that, and I had a lot of responsibility in the marketing of the entire organization, which was great. Like, but I made like $44,000 a year, so it was like, that sucks. But it was great, like, experience. So I was like, I'm gonna move to Tennessee. I know I'm not going to be at the community college very long, just because I knew that wasn't my passion, but I knew that it was going to be a great experience to be on the executive team of like this pretty large organization in Middle Tennessee, and like have really more of like a VP role, reporting directly to the president. And being only 25, I was like, okay, I can learn a lot and make an impact here, and then I can go do something else. And so what I thought the something else was going to be was like, seriously, I thought I was going to go, I thought it was going to be my fantasy football business, like, no doubt. But basically what happened was, I was like, the first day I started work in Tennessee, I realized that there was something called a marketing agency. And the reason why that was different to me is because the Pistons, we had always done everything in-house. Like, we didn't hire out to marketing agencies ever, and the NBA didn't either. So like, I didn't even know I didn't even know it existed. Like, I had been working for 7 years and had no idea that there was like a business model that could like build the stuff that I was building for any client, any business, and like sell it to them. And I was like fascinated by that, because the person at Columbia State who previously held my position, like, onboarded me to the marketing agency that she had hired, and then they started like whining and dining me. Like, now I get it. Like, they wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to fire them and hire another marketing agency, because that happens all the time. But I just like learned. Like, I was just kind of like learned from them, and was like, and I was like kind of thinking, I would do this. Like, I would work for one, or I would start my own, or whatever. And so, like, what was interesting about that is, I would say I was at the community college for 4 years. During that time, I grew my fantasy football business pretty significantly as my side hustle, which was great because I learned WordPress and converted my website, my fantasy football website, to a WordPress site. Did a lot of the college's stuff on WordPress, and basically said, we're going to fire the marketing agency and do everything in-house. Like, I've never been the type of person who really likes to outsource my own shit. Like, if I can learn it and I can do it, like, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to teach the people around me how to do it. Because it costs far less. And like, I started to learn that the marketing agencies were kind of full of shit. And like, why am I paying you why am I paying you thousands of dollars for like you to move a headline somewhere on an Adobe Creative Suite file, like 6 pixels, and then send it back to me? Like, that's just fucking ludicrous. And so I just started to see the gaps in like, and kind of like the opportunity in that. And then I met a guy, I had an idea. So then towards the end of my time at Columbia State, this was probably 2010. 2009 I had the idea. Probably by 2010 it was like live in the world. And then 2011 it was like happening for a while, and then it kind of like folded at the end of 2011. But my idea was to create a fantasy wrestling game. And there was a wrestling company, there is a wrestling company in Nashville called TNA Entertainment. It supposedly stands for Total Nonstop Action, but obviously everybody like laughs when they hear TNA because they think of tits and ass. And I mean that's got to be by design by them, I'm sure. And so they've like, I don't know where they stand now, but at the time they were WWE's biggest competitor. They had a show on Spike TV that got like 30 million viewers. And so I knew them because I was job hunting. And I was kind of just job hunting for fun. Like I knew that I wasn't going to be at Columbia State. I knew I wanted to go do something else at some point, and like I just kind of found it fun to go interview for jobs, and it was honestly like good sales practice for the future, which I didn't think of at the time, but I was like, damn, like that's good sales practice, and so I'm trying not to make this story too long, but anyway, like. So I had to hire, this was kind of maybe my biggest business deal that I had like challenged myself with actually putting the pieces together on. So I had to get a business partner that would help me fund the development of the fantasy football game because it's not an easy thing to develop. And I don't even have the skills today as a developer to do it, let alone back then. And so my business partner was obsessed with fantasy sports and wanted to go in on this with me, and we were 50-50 partners on this business that we called fantasy brand marketing, and we actually lined up a lot of deals. The biggest one was this one with TNA, which they called their product Impact Wrestling. I think they might still go by, I don't know, whatever. It's the same company. So so I had to pitch it to the president of the company. I had to pitch it to the CMO of the company. I had to build the game. I had to sign the deal with them. I had to do all the promotions. I promoted it within the fantasy sports community. TNA helped me promote it within the wrestling community. It eventually got upon launch, and like actually it was live for about 13 or 14 months. It had like 30,000 active users the entire time, which was really solid. And like, dude, I used to literally watch. They used to give me the DVD of the match. It did not air live. They taped it. They taped it on a Wednesday. They aired it on a Thursday night. I would drive from Columbia, Tennessee to Nashville, which is like a 2-hour round trip on Wednesdays, pick up the DVD. I would have 2 laptops in my office. I would watch the wrestling match on one laptop, and I would go into the back end of the fantasy game on the other laptop, and I would score the match because I built the scoring system. And the scoring system was like, if so-and-so has a mic promo, it's X amount of points. If so-and-so picks up a chair, it's X amount of points. If so-and-so hits another person with a chair, it's more points. Like, it wasn't based around winning and losing the matches. It was based around, like, all the shit that happens in the matches. And so, like, the CMO and the COO, like, they loved it. They wanted to keep it going. But, like, after a year, I mean, we were not making, like, my company was not making any money off of it because it just, at the end of the day, it was just a bad business deal. It was like, we had to they helped us with the development costs. TNA gave us 30 grand for the development cost, but the development cost way more than that. And then the hosting monthly cost like $1,000 or $2,000 a month to host it on AWS. Like, it was ridiculous. So like we had to shut it down. But the guy that I had, the guy's company who we hired to develop the game, I obviously became very close with and worked intimately with them because like I was the architect of the game and I worked directly with the developer who built the game. And I was the marketer of the game and all that stuff. And so the silver lining to that was he owned this software company that had like 30 people and they were super successful. And he was the sole owner of the company, and he it had the company for 25 years at that point already, and he was only in his mid-40s at that point. So I said, dude, hire me as your director of marketing full time, because like this game isn't a thing anymore, but like you know what I can do, and you know it can be something special for your business because I can add these marketing services and these web design services to your company, which basically only codes custom software. And there's a big discrepancy between what a custom software developer can do and what a digital marketer web designer can do. They're two totally different things. And so that went really well. Within a year, he had acquired another really good web design company. Basically dismantled it on purpose because their staff sucked and they were just a horribly run business. But they had a really good reputation for being this amazing like design team and like creative web design team. And they had been around for 10 years and like everybody in Nashville knew them and was like blown away by all their design. But they weren't making any money because they didn't know how to run the business. So he put me in charge of that company. Like, he acquired that company, put me in charge of that company, and basically let me run it. He handcuffed the shit out of me in hindsight, but at the time I didn't really know what I didn't know about that. You know what I mean? And so now sort of fast forwarding to the data-driven design piece, like within the first year of that experience, so now we're talking about 2011, now my full-time thing. I basically, Samantha had just been born. Like, I was like, I can't do the side hustle shit anymore. I am going to focus on this new job. And I put everything I had into the new job. I was working as much as I had ever worked, which I was, at that point, I was used to working 80-hour weeks. Like, that's just what I did always. And so I just was doing that for this guy and like putting everything into this guy's company. And one of the clients, and so now my daily grind was like building this new company with him, explaining to the clients of the new company that we acquired who the hell I was, because they were like, where's the other guy? Where's the other team? Like, what is going on? And like, so I had to learn like full transparency, honesty, like not having any experience in what they had been doing. Like, my experience was different. So I had to like craft my own sales pitch real fast and like just to keep these clients on board. And at the same time, I had to work on all these projects and like, dude, like, so it was me, like the company was me. And then I had like two other people. So I got like two other people. One of them was from, the software company, so I had to train him, and he was the HR guy. So I had to like train the HR guy from the software company how to do digital marketing, how to do web design, how to do all that. And then I hired one of Kate's former students, who was working at a t-shirt design store. I got like a $30,000 or $26,000 a year salary approved to like hire him to be a web designer. He didn't know shit about being a web designer. So like it was me and these two other people who had never done it before. And so I'm working on this project in 2011. And by this time I pretty much know what I'm doing. Like, I'm not, like, I don't feel, I mean, I had an experience in doing this. I just hadn't really done it that much for clients yet, you know? And like, that's obviously a big difference, but So I have 10 years of like doing it for clients now in my life. So now it's but like back then, I entered this one project with this pretty legit business in Nashville. This guy who had owned this company, he's an old guy, he's in his 80s, like, but he's sharp as shit, knew his stuff. Brought us in to do the website, like brought us in to do like 3 websites for his company. So we do the 3 websites. It took a reasonable amount of time. Like in my opinion, it took way longer than it should have. But like everyone still thought it was reasonable. It was probably like 6 to 8 months to do 3 websites, which back then was pretty fast. Now it would drive me nuts to take that long to do 3 websites. But anyway, so we're about to launch the 3 websites, and the day, so he calls us in on the day of the launch, in person for this meeting, and it's like me, a couple other people from our company that like I had, like that were helping me from my team, and like 8 people from his company, because that's just how he liked to roll. So he had all these people in there, and it was like, okay, well, we have a problem. We're not going to launch the websites today. And we were all just like, why? Like, even the people from his company were like, why? And he goes, well, I had my friend over for dinner last night, him and his wife. And, yeah, he just doesn't like the website. And we're like, well, okay. And we're trying to be, like, respectful, obviously. And he goes, so we're like, what did he... We all thought we could kind of convince him otherwise. And, so we're like, elaborate for us on this, So he goes, well, Gary or whoever his name was, like he's been in the consumer packaged goods space, specifically like frozen foods, his whole career. And yeah, he just doesn't think that like if someone were walking by the frozen food aisle that our website would really stand out to them. And dude, I was like, what the fuck? How do people make their decisions related to these services in this industry? Like, that is insane to say, like, on so many levels. And in that moment, I kind of remembered, I started having like these flashbacks of like working on the project, and like what I remembered is like 47 different people from the client had 47 different opinions, and then like here was some other motherfucker's opinion who came over to dinner, and now this one person's opinion who worked in consumer packaged goods, frozen foods, is going to tell his friend who's invested probably $80,000 total on these 3 websites over the last 8 months that he needs to start from scratch and have us redesign them because of his own opinion that it's not going to stand out. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. And so this whole idea of using opinions to make decisions on websites, for me, just like that fire in me that day in that meeting, like, has never gone away to this day. Like, it still like burns in me. Like, fuck your opinion. Your opinion doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. Like there is data that we can use to disarm people's feelings related to their opinions. So the psychology. So actually, I think people that look at data-driven design and don't know me and that story, and like have never really like worked with me, they probably think, like, definitely I'm a data geek. I am a data geek. Like, I know my shit when it comes to all the different kinds of web data and the different ways you can use it. But I also know how easy it is to get lost in the data. And data can do one of 2 things. It can make you super productive, or it can make you super unproductive. Because it can send you into this black hole of like analyzing and all this stuff and never do anything because you're just always looking at the data and analyzing it. Or if you know what you're doing, you can say these data points can help us make decisions to be more productive and not overanalyze things. And there's a fine line. And so the real story behind data-driven design is we use data to make everything more productive and get things done faster, so that you don't and by the way, like, it doesn't hurt anyone's feelings in the process. It doesn't, like, it's more of a psychology around using data than it is a science around using data. Like I can't tell you you're going to get more conversions if we do this thing because of the data, but what I can tell you is that we have all these data points that say that if you do these things, you're more likely to get conversions. And oh, by the way, you should make that decision now based on that data instead of fucking debating it with your colleagues for the next 6 weeks. Because the opportunity cost of using all that time to debate it with your colleagues can be used for all these other things. So the productivity, to me, is more important necessarily than, like, the data science. You know what I mean? 110% true, and that's exactly what that's exactly like my value prop that I like. I don't use those exact words, but that's exactly like the punchline in, like, when I'm having conversations with clients. If I get real passionate in, like, a meeting or, like, a presentation in front of, I don't know, 15 to however many people, like, it's what data-driven design's differentiator is. Data-driven design's differentiator is that we can guide you into making these more educated decisions so that you can move faster, and you don't. Other agencies are going to make your project take longer for several reasons. They're going to make your project take longer because they bill by the hour. They're going to make your project take longer because they want everybody to be happy with the design, and they want to be happy with the design. I don't care about the design. I want, like, the design, the good design should be a given, but, like, shouldn't you want your website to work for your business? And oh, by the way, you don't really know if it's going to work for your business until you put it out there. So that's what you just said. It's like, you got to put it out there. You got to see what the data says, and then you got to make adjustments. And so that's, like, what, you know. Right. Well, and I think the other problem with most people's websites is, and this is where I really can make a lot of, like, this is kind of really how I close a lot of sales, is just speaking to the fact that, like, now I would go so far as to say, like, 7.5 out of 10 websites, the business doesn't even know how to update their own content. Like, nobody, like, the team that built it for them, like, I would look 100% of people that I'm trying to sell to in the eye and just be like, you probably don't even know, like, no one probably even showed you how to update your content, right? Like, I mean, or if they did, like, it's not good. Like, you can't even really do what you want to do. I'm sure. Yep. It can get super convoluted. I mean, dude, at some point, the opportunity to be, like, a really good thought leader consultant and, like, disrupt agencies is, like, a passion of mine. It's not the time for that, and I don't know if there will be a time for that, but, like, I definitely have the passion and fire to, like, basically tell everybody that they have it wrong because of what you just said. Like, because of what you just have it wrong because if you don't know how to update your content, you're not using the right tools, and you're slowing everything down, and that really does hurt the business. So, that's very true, and I'm glad you said that because that's actually, like, a perfect segue into one, like, kind of the next, like, the parallel path of everything I've been talking about, which is, like, important to mention, is, like, around the same time. So around the same time, I started having this realization that, like, I could create this differentiator around speaking to people about how I don't have an opinion, I look at data, and be different than everyone else trying to sell them a website or whatever. what I realized was that, to your point, nobody knew how to make their website convert for them, and nobody knew how to beat their competitors out to get people to their website. And the good news was I did, because I had to do that with my fantasy football site. Like I built like a $30,000 a year business around my fantasy football site, which is not a huge number, but I built it from scratch, zero traffic, to, ranking for keywords on Google, and then selling, like going to CBS Sports and saying how many web visitors will it take and impressions do I need to serve for you to pay me an ad sponsorship, and getting them to buy insertion orders with me, and and then getting members to pay for my advice, and so I got what businesses were trying to do, and it's just so what I did, and what I really was still doing probably up until I would say this year, is doing a couple different things. What I realized early on wasn't going to be the winning formula would be to just jump right in and start doing all these tactical things that I knew how to do. I think I realized early on that there had to be some kind of a playbook or a roadmap that allowed, there had to be a consulting deliverable that I would charge for, that allowed me to get to know the business, peek under the hood, get their data, understand their target audience, but not just charge them. The fine line was I couldn't just charge them for getting to know their business, because that doesn't do anything for them. And they might be impressed by my ability to come back and tell them about their business, but again, that's not really valuable. So I created it took me from 2012 to 2017 to really get, and just doing these all the time, selling them. I was selling them for, granted, for other people's companies, but I was selling them for, and the top ones were $15,000, the bottom ones were $2,500, and it would just depend on all of what they wanted me to do, all of what they wanted me to look at. But digital strategy roadmaps is basically what I ended up calling them. Right around, they had different variations of names throughout the years, but it'd be digital playbook, digital strategy playbook, digital roadmap, digital strategy roadmap, and then it just was digital strategy roadmap. So when I started data-driven design in 2016, I was digital strategy roadmap. And then in 2018, when we really started to hire employees and hire our team, I made the decision that every website project would have a mini digital strategy roadmap baked into it, so that every website would be based on data. So you can't be data-driven design and not have every single one of your projects be based on data somehow. So I was those we called the data dive. So you would either buy a digital strategy roadmap from us and then maybe do your website, or maybe the digital strategy roadmap would just be its own standalone consulting deliverable. Or you would get a website and you'd get the data dive as part of the website. And there's all these other things we would do, but I really don't need to get into those details. Anyway, so now what I've decided in the last 2 months is that I'm super proud of the business that we built from 2016 to through 2019, and I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to hire and retain hand-picked people that I had always wanted to hire. And even more than that, I was proud of the fact that between Kate and I, we didn't allow data-driven design to become the agencies that we despised. I would actually say these words to the team. I would be We are not the fancy agency that has the fancy office with beer on tap that is charging clients for a bunch of bullshit. We're not the agency that has project managers. We're the agency that has like all producers that we all know how to do all the work, and we're interchangeable, and we have our own process, and we're faster. I'm like, speed matters. Like, we charge flat fees so our clients know exactly. Like, I did everything the exact opposite of the agencies that I had worked for, like, by design. And so now I'm even taking that a step further, because where I'm at now is, and this gets us obviously into like what. So that's kind of the background, right? Feel free to ask any questions ever about that, but like what so from 2018 to 2020, I by design systematically hired people so that I could fire myself from the jobs that I was doing. And so I was in the good part of that was I had goals personally for myself in 2020 of like marketing the company. Like my role in this year was supposed to be chief marketing officer of my own company. Like taking all of my marketing skills and not spending any of my time doing any marketing work for any clients anymore, but like finally doing it for the business that I created. And it was going to grow like gangbusters. And I was going to, like, I would say pretty much all of 2019, I don't know, Kate and I maybe total. So I made a lot of money personally. Like, I say a lot of money. Like, I made a good amount of money, like probably more money than I had ever made, like in 2017 and 2018, because I was the one doing all the work for my own company. And I didn't really have to pay other people that much money. So I just kept all the money. Well, like then in 2019, I probably, between Kate and I total, we probably made like a third of what I made, like each of the previous 2 years, because I was paying everybody else's salaries, but I was like pumped about the fact that like in 2020, we're now going to have this business plan where I'm going to be able to do all this marketing. And I had hired a business development person. Like I had finally actually fired myself from like the last job that I was doing that I didn't want to be doing. And I was finally going to be doing like the job that I wanted to be doing. Well, then obviously everything changed to the point where like I had to go back to 2016, 2017, where the company was literally only me and I was doing all the projects. So that kind of forced me to think about how can I make data-driven design more efficient and rebuild the company to where like we could still offer the same things, or we can offer some of the same things, but not all of the things. And some of the things that we're still going to offer are going to be offered in a different way. And so where I am today is kind of what I told you the other day, where it's like now instead of doing these projects where 6 months ago we were doing projects that would be like we would have 4 people on one project. We had started it to become the agency that I didn't really like to be. Like we had started to become like way too many people on one thing, way too many like conversations about the same thing, way too many meetings, like, and so in March and April, in March, April, and May, as I was working, almost simultaneously as I was back to working on all the client projects, I was thinking, what don't you like to do? And what do you like to do? And how can you build a business? How can you build a business around data-driven design that's scalable again, around only the things that you really like to do? Like, and so what it came down to for me was basically everything about talking to the client I cannot stand. Not because I don't, like, if you talk to anybody who's ever worked with me, they will probably tell you first that, like, I definitely am the king of, like, trying to be client service focused. So, but it's more about, it's such a waste of time. It's a waste of the client's time. It's a waste of my time. I could be building you your website in the amount of time that we're having the meeting to talk about the website. It's literally down to that efficient. So, like, why wouldn't my value proposition now become more of a, well, you and I hit on a few minutes ago, which was like, if you can build a website. Actually, let me back up. So this will probably make more sense. There's Squarespace and Wix, and then there's custom websites, and like WordPress is somewhere in the middle there. But the problem with Wix and Squarespace is that the good thing about Wix and Squarespace is it doesn't really cost anything. So, like, you could start a business tomorrow. You could start on Squarespace. What you would find within the first probably 6 weeks, if not sooner, is that you hate your website because you have to do everything on your website. So where I think data-driven design, I'm calling it like 3.0 in my head, is like the new value proposition on top of everything else is we're going to allow you to essentially order a website from us based on data that costs this entry-level fee, and then we're going to build it for you. You're going to submit us the content. We're going to build it for you, and you're going to get it like basically within a week or two. And that would be, so, but like kind of putting together like a menu of options. So like data-driven.design/start is like you're probably not in front of your computer right now, but like the data-driven.design/start page is a page that I built for kind of like the new process, which is still have the same 30-minute conversation that I was having before. And actually I didn't tell you what the old process was, but like the old process was get a lead in, whether it's word of mouth or whether it's through the website or social media or whatever, have them book a time on my calendar, have a 30-minute free consultation, and then the next steps coming out of the 30-minute free consultation would be a custom proposal that I would send. And then after the custom proposal, it would be a still more communications, like another follow-up discussion, probably for more like 90 minutes about, okay, why is this in the proposal? And then it'd be like a second version of the proposal. Like, I was in the B2B long sales cycle business for a long time. I understood that. I still have a lot of patience. I don't mind that. But now what I'm trying to do is, like, instead of saying I'm going to propose something based on what you've told me you want, and then I'm going to come in during the project and use data and everything to make it really efficient and effective, I'm saying we already know what's efficient and effective based on our 10 years of doing this and all of the data that we have. And we already know how to build a website and make it to where you can update all the content. Like, we don't need to spend time discussing all the different things that you think you need, but instead, we're going to provide a better client service experience by just coming and saying, we are the solution for the business that doesn't want Squarespace and Wix because they don't have the time to do it themselves. They don't have the money to have an in-house team or an external team that's building something for them, but they do have the money to get started with data-driven design to where we build something for them fast based on data, give it to them. Then they can either leave and be happy with the website that they bought, or they can join the data-driven design support community for $100 a month, which is a membership, and then they can get support and hosting and add things, and then we're your team to add things onto the website and all that stuff. So, and I have like pretty big ambitions for data-driven design, for the voice designer, and for a lot of other things that like we could be adding as services that we're not going to be able to do with just me, and we're not going to be able to do with just me, especially if I'm like trying to also do the work on the projects and do everything. So I want simpler value exchange up front, simpler transactions up front, that's more scalable and more of a volume play that allows still like I still want the value exchange to be like the best that it can possibly be, because I don't want to be like the agency that like screws people over. But I want to be less of an agency, and I want to be more of a, I don't want to be a digital agency anymore. I think that's the thing. I want to be a mix between a software as a service product and a services business. I want to be like those two things combined.